You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to One on One, a KC Sports Network podcast. I am your co-host, Mike DeVito, here as always with 9-year NFL veteran and Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion Jeff Allen, and we are bringing you all things Chiefs football from a player's perspective. Big win, Big Jeff, in Arrowhead, hard-fought game against the Oakland Raiders. Because
Oakland Raiders forever.
Oakland, they're from Oakland, baby. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the big game next week. But just in case I don't get a penalty, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors real quick. Cookie Society cookie, baby. We got that October menu going, Jeff. Incredible, man. It's
unreal. I wasn't on here last week to give its proper due, the glory that's on this menu. Twix. We have a Twix cookie.
Come on.
It tastes like an actual Twix. There's a shortbread crust on the bottom of it. Stuffed with caramel, topped with
Can you bring it on next time?
I'll bring it on, man. We also have, surprisingly, we have a pumpkin doodle cookie that's my favorite. You know, I'm a sweet potato pie type of guy. You know, it's a cultural thing. Right. But this pumpkin pie thing is ridiculous, man. Like, it's off the wall, and it's my favorite cookie in the menu right now. We got a peanut butter cup, which is basically a Reese's cookie. And I'm missing one more, but just go to cookiesociety.com. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Cookie Society.
12-pack.
12-pack. Can't go wrong.
Oh, that 12-pack box comes in the mail. You see all those cookies. It feels great. Check them out. Cookiesociety.com. They ship nationwide. Big Jeff, we love you. Thank you for your support, brother. We're grateful for our sponsors. But let's get into it, brother. This is a tough, man. This is always a tough game. It's
always
the in-conference games are always tough, but then there's those special rivalry games, right? And we don't like Denver. We don't like any other teams. But Oakland, man. Oakland, Kansas City is like Jets, Patriots. It's that, you know, that if you go 2-15 for the season and your 2 wins are against that team, you're still like, okay, that was a productive season. Right? So talk to me, brother. Why is this game always so? Tell me about this rivalry, man. You've been in it as many times as I have.
For the most part, when you think about NFL, I mean, you have rivalries, but in my opinion, I don't think there's much bad blood within them, unless you're talking about this one. And this one is solely based upon the fan base, and not to talk crap about their fans or anything, because I think it's great for the game.
Right.
But they're menaces. And I remember, like, I can remember going to Oakland. Like, I never got a chance to play in Vegas,
right?
But playing in Oakland, man, those days, going into that shitty stadium, looking at little kids flip the bird to you, people throwing beer on you, like, it lights a fire underneath you, and it makes the game fun from a competitive standpoint.
It does.
It just gets you going, man. I know it's, you know, not the best human behavior sometimes, but from a competitive standpoint, it's really good to see that. So that's the first part. The second part is just the history of it. We all know the history of the Chiefs and the Raiders and what it means to the game of football and the NFL in general. And I just think it's just the traditions just goes on and on. Like, it's a new coach. Hasn't really been a rivalry from a I guess a record standpoint. I mean, the Chiefs have dominated.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the games have always been competitive because of the rivalry and just the bad blood between the two organizations.
You know, it's funny, since you said that. I mean, the Oakland has just been bad for so long.
Yeah,
like,
it's been.
Lord have mercy. When I was with the Jets, so we were talking all the way back to 2007. I remember thinking, you always thought Oakland sucked. You know, it was like Cleveland, Oakland. You're like, I can't imagine that long they still can't get their shit together. But
no, I'll pay them. I hate the Raiders. I'll say this. I absolutely don't like them. But they're arguably, I guess, one of the best of the worst, in my opinion, this year. They're 1-4, but their record doesn't I guess it's not a good representation of how good of a football team they are. They've lost 4 games by less than a touchdown. They've been really competitive. They just haven't figured out how to get over the hump, and that could be because they have a new coach. But it is a good football team, although their record doesn't say that. So
you know what? there is a sort of intangible aspect of the game that teams have, this intangible sort of thing that they're able to finish games, right? And I've never, you always hear coaches talking about, we got to finish. And, it's hard to say, well, what does that really entail? What does that mean? And the only thing I can point to is some teams that I've played with just had that. They just had that ability to finish games. Like if it was close, it didn't matter. You knew we were going to get it done at the end because we had that ability. What went into that? You can talk about conditioning. You can talk about experience. You can talk about maybe it's a factor of all those things. But it was one of those weird things I remember throughout my career thinking, I'm not quite sure what we need to do to fit. Like, it's not like we stopped trying in the fourth corner, it's like, so, but yeah, no, that's right about Oakland, man. I mean, this year's been crazy for them.
I think collectively, you talked about finishing. I think collectively, just as a group from a leadership standpoint, you just get that feel. And I tweeted when we were down 17-0, I'm not worried. Because I wasn't worried because I knew at some point the Raiders weren't going to finish the game properly. Yeah. And I know that we were going to pick things up and we're going to find a way to win the game just because historically that's what we've been doing. That's the makeup of the team. It's the coach, it's the quarterback, it's Travis Kelce. It's all of those guys. As long as you have those cornerstones, you can rotate some guys. Jeff Allen's can leave. Mike DeVito's can leave. Right. All those guys, and you can keep it going if you got a good foundation, and they got that. So
yeah, no, that I mean, and the bonus, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but the bonus is not only are these players incredibly talented that you mentioned, but they're in those leadership spots.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you have these humble, incredible players who are leading this team, right? And I've been on a lot of teams where those two things are separated. You have the dogs on the field that don't really get much done leadership-wise, and then you have the leaders who aren't really doing much on the field. So when you mix those two together, that's a potent thing.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. Where was I going to go with this?
Man, we could talk about we're talking about finishing. We can talk about the first half versus the second half. And the night and day and what we think, I guess the boost was, what got us the momentum going.
Thank you. You sparked my memory. So here's what I can tell you. And this has been through the Mahomes Reed era. There have been, I can count probably, 6-7 times that this team has been so far down that I know if I was on the best teams that I had ever been a part of, if we were that far down, that game was over. That game was over. It didn't matter. We just weren't going to come back from it. 17-0 being one of those borderline cases. And going off of your tweet, what I tweeted this morning after reading your tweet was Kansas City is one of these weird teams that you could be down 3, KC be down 3, and it feels like they're up 20. Mm-hmm. And if they're down 20, it feels like they're down by 3. Like there's never a gap where you're like, I'm worried now. Like, you ever worried? I mean, the only game I could say you knew it was over was Tampa in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. I'm never worried. You got the Tampa deal. That was because of personnel and injuries on the line front. But the year prior, winning the Super Bowl, that entire run was come back from behind victories. In the biggest moments, when everything was on the line, they found a way, or we found a way. So that is what this team is. And I know it's only one ring so far, but this team has a championship mindset year in and year out, and it's championship or bust. So these guys are going to compete, and they're going to treat every single game with the proper respect because they know they have a bullseye on their chest.
Yeah, that's those are great points, Jeff. And let's go back to the sort of first half versus second half that you had brought up. I've been a part of these games before, right? It's like all of a sudden at halftime, you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, we're playing a game. But, you never want to start slow, but it happens. Throughout, every season, there's going to be those games where teams start slow. I can't remember being on a team that ever started fast every single game. So as much as you shoot for that, there are going to be times you start slow. But you had an interesting take, and so go ahead. So tell me about the penalty, because I know we're going to talk about that, but tell me how you saw that playing into this game.
As crazy as it sounds, that penalty where we didn't get the strip fumble from Chris Jones and they called it roughing the passer, that was the turning point in my opinion. That penalty going against us, and us facing that adversity, the crowd got into it. The coach, I've never seen Andy Reid that pissed off. Never. He's getting after the ref. Patrick is pissed off. The entire team is just pissed off and lit a fire underneath everyone. They go up 20-7. We get the ball back with 17 seconds. Patrick surgical gets right down the field. Boom. The new kicker drills a Chiefs record for a field goal to go into the half, 20-10. Right. At that moment, I knew, okay, the momentum was back on our side. I knew without a doubt we were going to get the ball back, start the half, and get a touchdown. And from there, it was game, in my opinion.
That's a really interesting point. But I do want to. I don't know if I brought this statistic up before, but one thing we practice a ton in the NFL, and good coaches will practice it, are 2-minute situations, both 2-minute before the half and 2-minute at the end of the game. Obviously, 2-minute at the end of the game is very important, right? Games on the line. But 2-minute going into the half, the statistics are insane when you look at the last person that scores going into halftime, what the percentage are of that team scoring. So the last team scoring before going into halftime, that percentage of wins for the team that scores last going into the halftime is like 80 or 90% chance that team's going to win.
I guarantee you, I know how you know that statistic. You play for the New York Jets and you face Tom Brady. He was the best at it. He was the best at it. Exactly. And every team around the league, they would go into the film room and they would say, New England's the best at end-of-half situations. They're going to figure out where to score, and if they score, the percentages shoot through the roof. So shout out to Tom Brady. I know he got a good call, which he does from time to time, but I'm giving him his flowers right now.
That's right. And you're right. That's exactly where it was from. Was from my time with the Jets because of playing against New England, and it's just a dagger in the heart when a team can go down, especially with 17 seconds left. And so I had turned it off after that last score with the 17 seconds left, thinking, let me put the kids to bed and get this, that, and together. And then all of a sudden I get a notification on the phone that, they kicked the field goal with that 17 seconds. I was like, boom, we're good. We're solid. Going in. So, but that's really interesting what you said about that bad call, getting the guys fired up, because you heard Travis Kelce talk about it. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. He said, once you see Big Red fired up, he's like, everybody's getting fired up. I don't remember ever seeing him like that. Not even close to that.
There have been a couple times in training camp where I've heard him say some things that he doesn't typically say, but it's few and far in between. But I've never seen him on the field lose his composure in that way. And I wouldn't say he lost his composure because it was warranted. It was a terrible call. It was just bad. So, but I've never seen that from him. So I'm pretty sure the team was like, wow, we should be pissed off too.
No.
Hey, sorry to interrupt today's podcast, but I have to tell you about a couple of our sponsors. First one being Liquid Death. You've heard us talk about this company all the time here on Kansas City Sports Network. Here at KCSN, we love Liquid Death. And when I'm looking through the bottled water section of my local store, and I say, oh, what are those strange tall boys up there? I know it's Liquid Death, and you might look at it and be like, wait, what is that up there? Kind of rad-looking cans. It's Liquid Death, and it's spring water from the Alps. It's not beer, and it is called Liquid Death. Yeah, that name jumps off the can, the can design, everything. I would show you a can, but I don't have one because I've drank all of them. I've drank everything that they've given me at Liquid Death because it's so delicious, because it absolutely murders your thirst. That's why it's called Liquid Death. It murders your thirst. And not only does it murder your thirst, but it brings death to plastic bottles. I hate plastic pollution. You hate plastic pollution. Their infinitely recyclable tall boy aluminum cans help bring death to that as well, that pollution. And they donate 10% of their profits to help kill plastic pollution. Another good thing about the folks over at Liquid Death. And let me tell you, they've got, I believe, 4 different flavors that you can get. 5 if you talk about their flavored sparkling waters. They've got a berry, they've got a mango, they've got a lime. All of them are very good. As a guy who drinks sparkling water myself, love the Liquid Death versions of them. Make sure you go check those out. They have just a still water, which is the water from the Alps. Kind of weird to be drinking out of a can, but it feels good to be drinking out of a can because you're doing good for the environment. And they also have just a regular sparkling water if you want to add it to your add it to your mixed drinks, maybe. Have it be a little bit of a beverage mixer you could have there with your Liquid Death. But they've got all kinds of things, and you can go find it at your local Woodman's, 7-Eleven, Roundy's, or Hy-Vee. Or here's what you can do. You can go and find a Liquid Death retailer near you using code KCSN. That's liquiddeath.com/KCSN. Go to that website, find a Liquid Death retailer near you. That's liquiddeath.com/KCSN.
But I mean, I guess we'll transition into that was such a bad call from a defensive lineman's perspective. If you were playing the game today, how hard would it be, to sack a quarterback?
Well, I wouldn't have any issues because I'm just taking on double team. So the one time I get anywhere near them in a season, it's incredibly. I mean, these rules, what's going on now, and remind me when I get to the end of this to bring up one other point about how I don't see them changing. But the way that the rules are now with the however with the area you have, this sort of area you have to sack a quarterback and how you can't go low, can't go too high, to be rushing back there at 100 miles an hour, working your moves, bull rushing a guy back, whatever it is, you're 5 to 7 yards as fast as you can, and then in that split second be able to adjust your body so that you're hitting within this the small framework, the small target hit zone that you can hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how you do it. And then you get a guy like Chris Jones, who's 8'10". I mean, it's like, he's not, it's just, it seems totally unreasonable. And, and I don't know, Jeff, do you remember there being that many hurt quarterbacks, hurt due to sacks, prior to these rules that you thought we need to implement something because these guys
not any more or less than they already are?
That's what I'm saying.
I think the rule in itself, there's good intentions, obviously. I mean, for most teams, the face of their franchise is the quarterback. They get paid the most money. It's what makes the season competitive, having a good quarterback.
Right.
So they want to protect those guys. But in the same sense, like, these are big dudes. And I'm an offensive guy. I want offenses to succeed. But you're telling the defender to beat a 300-pound man, get around him, and then slow down and try to find a way to softly put down a 6'5", 6'6" human being that's 220 pounds, 230 pounds.
After he stripped the ball.
Yeah. But it's impossible. I mean, I know Roethlisberger isn't playing anymore, but you got guys like Big Ben, who's like an offensive lineman.
You couldn't. You know how hard you had to hit him to bring him down?
Exactly. So the physics of it, I think they didn't take that into account. Like, okay, it takes a little bit of force to bring these guys down. You can't just bump into them; they're going to fall unless you're going to change the rule to I touch the quarterback, I sack him.
Right.
But it takes a lot of force to bring a human being down. It doesn't matter if it's a quarterback, running back, tight end.
Quarterbacks are big too.
Yeah, they're big dudes.
I remember, when this came to light with me when we were playing Denver in 2015, and I was just, for whatever reason, that one game I was on fire with my rushes. And one time I got back and almost brought down Peyton Manning. This was the second game. Remember we smashed them up in Denver?
What was Peyton, 6'7"?
I was like, wow, this dude's really tall. And then they brought Roethlisberger, or not
Roethlisberger.
Osweiler.
He's 6'8".
I was like, what the hell? It's like you don't realize these quarterbacks aren't feeble human beings. You know what I mean? These are big human beings. And so, no, I totally agree with you. It just seems unreasonable to ask these guys.
Yeah.
Again, and we talk about the speed of the game constantly. It's so much faster than I was when I was there. So even sort of the context that I'm thinking of it in, I don't even know what it's like now. But it's just it's so hard. I mean, I see some of these ones where guys are just, they're not even going low on purpose. It's just how they ended up stumbling down. And you're almost asking them to, instead of reaching out to grab the quarterback, you got to roll out of there almost like you're at practice to get out of his way. And here's the thing, Jeff. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't feel bad for defenders often. But some of these rules that they have, and just their inability to play the game fast, it's tough, man. Like, something has to give. We do understand that player safety is very important. I'm a former player. You're a former player. We want to have healthy lives post-football. And there's some things that you have to give to do that. But you can't – the integrity of the game is the integrity of the game. Right. Football is a violent sport. For the most part, we know what we signed up for, and it's a part of it. There's some things that can change from a safety standpoint, but there's just some things that are inevitable. You can't – there's some contact. There's some things that you can't change, and they're doing too much, in my opinion.
Yeah. And here's my thought, and tell me what you think, Jeff. But here's my sort of outlook. I don't think it's going to change. I bet you the NFL loves it. I bet you they love it because we talk about the owners. They care. This is a money league. This is all about money, right? Yeah. They are bottom dollar. That's the most important thing. So think about this situation. What's going to prevent your team from doing well and from people to showing up to watch your team play and from you making money? Is it going to be that the ref is throwing flags because your defensive linemen are sacking the quarterback too hard? That's not going to prevent anybody to stop watching the game. But what about if your starting quarterback gets hurt and now you have to go to a backup? And now you're, instead of having Mahomes who's scoring 50 points a game, you got Henne who's giving you 18 and you're losing. And now people are going to stop watching. Now that's a recipe for disaster. So I don't think the NFL gives a damn. I bet you they applaud that ref for what he did, because it's like, that's Derek Carr. If anybody's going to go watch the Raiders, he's the big reason why. And if he gets hurt, they're really going down the toilet. And so screw it. Throw the flag.
That's a great point. I mean, obviously follow the money, and business always comes first. And I agree with you. For that very reason, I didn't think of it from that perspective. I don't think it will ever change because you have to protect your precious commodity. And like I said, when you look at any team's cap, if you got a quarterback on a second deal, he takes up the majority of it. He takes a big portion of that pie. I mean, Patrick is getting goddamn $500 million right now.
Him and Bezos are hanging out.
You know those owners' meetings. Mr. Hunt's in there like, nope, we can't let Patrick get hurt. Put that damn rule in place.
That's right, man. You know it.
I get it, but when I say the integrity of the game, we saw it in Atlanta. It possibly cost them a game when they called that on Grady Jarrett against Brady. We were able to overcome it, but it could have cost us a game. And don't let this affect the game. We get in the playoffs. Are you going to call it like this? Or is it something early in the year where you're like, we got to call it like this to get to the playoffs?
Right. That's interesting. That's interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want it to affect, late season pushes or playoff pushes and cost teams games, because if this happens during playoffs, you might lose some viewership. Like, if a team has a chance to go to a Super Bowl, lose the Super Bowl, you're going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. So it definitely has to be some give and take. I see both ways.
That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that, and that's certainly the case, right? You start getting these kind of calls down the stretch where now teams, now it is deciding important games. Yeah, not they're all important, but I mean,
obviously important games where you can pinpoint. You're not going to look and say, well, week 2 or week 4 when they got that call, we would have made the playoffs. It's kind of hard to make that point. But if it's week 16 and you got to win one to get in the playoffs and you lose it because of a bad call, you can definitely say it was because of that. So great point, brother. Well, all right. So we got through it. We rebounded after the second half. We feel good. Kelsey scores 4 touchdowns. We didn't mention that. Kelsey, you are the GOAT, my man.
That's incredible.
I'm thankful I was able to play with you. I got one of your jerseys. I'm definitely going to put that thing on eBay because it's going to be worth $1 million.
Yeah, no doubt. I know. I tell my kids, there are only a few people that I tell my kids, like, wow, I got to play with that person, like Revis, DJ, and Kelsey. It's just amazing. And I got to see him when he was young too. So when you see where he's come and how much he's done,
33, he's like fine wine. He's getting better with time.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing. So. I mean, I don't see he's not slowing down. He's getting better every year, which is absolutely nuts.
Wasn't the stat line kind of funny too? It was like 7 catches, 25 yards, and
4 touchdowns. But they did a good job. Like, the Raiders did a really good job of scheming up Kelsey. They doubled him. They made it hard for him to get off the line. Gave a bunch of different looks, which gave a lot of guys opportunities other than Kelsey. But when it counted down in that red zone, he found a way to get open. So
yeah,
that's what the great ones do.
Shout out Kelsey, man. I can't wait. He's be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, just an excellent career. He's fun to watch. We're lucky to have him in the
Shout out to his podcast. You got
yeah.
New Heights. New Heights. Him and his
New
brother.
Heights with Jason.
They're killing it. One of my favorite podcasts right now.
Oh, they are funny, man. They are so funny. Yeah, New Heights.
Definitely.
You got to check that out. Yeah, it's a good call, Jeff. All right, brother, that's behind us. We're moving on now. We got what the analysts, I think, are predicting to be the best or predict as the best team in the NFL or whoever the power rankings or whatever that is, however they figure that out. We got the Bills this week at home, Buffalo. Talk to me about this game, brother. We're coming off the big win. This is one of those ones that you can't start off slow.
This isn't our last time playing Buffalo. I'm going to put that on record.
No doubt.
On record right now. If we want to do what we want to do and win the Super Bowl, we're going to be playing Buffalo in the playoffs. So I think Buffalo is still looking like the best team in football. They have the number one offense, number one defense, but they're coming to Arrowhead. Yeah. And that is a different beast. That's going to be tough. And I'm really surprised that we're home underdogs. 3 points. I see the Chiefs winning this game. I know we're going to come out fast because we have no choice. Because we start this game slow. Josh Allen, their offense, it could get ugly. So we're going to have to play good complementary football, offense, defense, special teams, make a ton of plays, and we'll pull it out.
Yeah, I think they're averaging well over 100 yards rushing a game, 330-something yards.
They do everything well. It looks like, I mean, it's one of those stat lines on Madden that you see when you create a franchise. Number one defense, number one offense, leading them in every category. Great players, great organization. They've been building this for a while. And I can't give them enough credit because it really reminds me of Kansas City. Just the fans, the team, how most of it's homegrown, the adversity they've hit, and how this thing has been building. But unfortunately, they're building this thing while Patrick Mahomes is in Kansas City. So that's tough.
It really is amazing. This is a team, unlike Oakland, that was bad, at the beginning of my career. We were always like, we'll pound on Buffalo, but has really done a great job. And it also talks to, you get a good quarterback in place. Yeah. That's game over. That's game over. Yeah, going into Arrowhead, you could see it. It even seems different from when I was there. We talked 2013, 2014, 2015. We had gotten the ship going in the right direction. We were winning a ton of games, and Arrowhead was loud as hell, breaking records. But they're just, I don't know if it's just that I've been out of it or if things have changed a little bit. But when I watch it on TV, it's like, wow, that is an experience. That is an experience. And so you're totally right. When you look at these two teams and how they match up, here and there, a little bit over here, a little bit over there. But when you talk about the advantage of being in Arrowhead, and it's, every week showing out, watching Arrowhead, watching that stadium is like unbelievable. There's nothing like it in the NFL. So
I'm excited, man. This is these games. These, as a competitor and looking at it, these are the games where I miss playing. Big time games against big time teams, and even though it's early in the year, this one's going to count for something, whether it be home field in the playoffs. But this is going to count for something. It's going to be a tiebreaker because I don't see either one of these teams slowing down. This is going to just be one of the first matchups.
And that's got to be, that's the message this week, right? That's a great point. I haven't even thought about that. But you really got to treat this like a playoff game because this is the other team. Like when I think of the AFC, you think of Buffalo, Kansas City. Who else is in that discussion?
You had Miami. They looked a little big, but they lost the quarterback.
They're struggling. Yeah. They've lost two
and they haven't been building this thing. I feel like that's something later down the road.
Right.
Buffalo has been building this thing for years. And similar to Kansas City, these two organizations are the cream of the crop, in my opinion. And they're going to find a way to meet again later. So.
Exactly. So you got to get this, you got to get this win, just like you got to get the win on Oakland and Denver. This is one of those games that is going to have playoff implications. Where the bracket ends up, fitting, winning this game is going to be huge because this is the other team that's going to be there at the end for the top 1 and 2. And now is just one bye week. That's
critical, man.
Critical after 17
games. Yeah, you got to get that prize. We got to win this one. And like I said, if we're going to play a good football team like this, we want to play them at home, including the playoffs. So let's get this win.
Awesome. That's great. Big Jeff, brother, love you. Chiefs Kingdom, thank you for tuning in to One-on-One. We will see you again next week with a win over Buffalo. We'll celebrate, have some Twix cookies, maybe have a guest on here, Big Jeff.
Yes, sir.
And we'll sit here and reminisce on beating the Bills and then look forward from there. Love you, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in.
Go Chiefs, beat the Bills.